Panel virtual events. Thank you all for coming. We are going to have some great information for you today. This session is going to be using Qigong and breathing techniques for stress relief, and it will be presented by Ms. Carla Newman, who is a sociology instructor at Valle Verde. Before we begin, I would like to mention that we are going to be recording this session so we can come back to it later. And also this event will provide Tejano passport points. We will post the code on the chat towards the end of the session. If you have any questions on Tejano passport points, please let us know at the end. So now please at this time mute your mic so we can have a great sound experience so you can hear all the great information we're about to share with you. Without further ado, I will hand it over to our presenter, Ms. Carla Newman.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can see me. I don't have the ability to. This is sort of an experiment for me. I'm using one of the smart classrooms for this presentation. I mean, I've used them before. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking to you about Tai Chi and Qigong and some things you can do to reduce your stress. And I'm going to start with breathing right now, which you're like, I already know how to breathe. But breathing is one of those things that we can do both naturally and automatically without thinking about it. Hopefully you're breathing now. But it's also one of those things that we can do mindfully or consciously. We can slow our breathing down, speed it up. And if you slow your breathing down, it is going to calm you down and reduce some of your stress. So you may wonder why I've got my hands on my body. You can put your hands on your own body and find out which moves more, your upper hand or your lower hand when you breathe. So just breathe naturally. Take a couple of deep breaths. And see which hand is moving more. You may have noticed, if you can see me well enough, that my lower hand was moving a little bit more than my upper hand. That's why that's actually what you want, because if you breathe from the upper chest, you're going to get more stressed out. When we get stressed out, we tend to breathe faster and we don't breathe as deeply. So if our lower hand is moving, it means we're breathing deeper and the air is going further into our lungs. Your lungs are actually, they go pretty far down. So if you take the time to slow your breathing and think about trying to fill your lungs, maybe you can take a deeper breath. And another way to think about slowing your breathing is to consciously breathe in for a count of 4, and then hold it, and then breathe out for a longer count, maybe 7. Right, so we're going to do that now. I'm going to breathe in for 4. I'm going to hold it. And then breathe out for 7. Hopefully you were still breathing while that was happening. If you couldn't hold your breath, think about it. You're not trying to go underwater. You're just trying to consciously slow your breathing down, because when you're anxious and stressed out, you're going to breathe faster. All right. Posture is also something you can do. You're like, well, I know you know how to stand, right? You guys do it all the time, but you may not be standing in a way that's good for your back health and leaning over. I know this is about stress reduction, but standing properly will be useful for like the rest of your life, right? You're hoping to keep your hips as long as you can. So you want to think about when you stand, having your weight go down the inside of your legs. I'm not actually sure if you can see me. I'm gesturing to the inside of my legs. You can sort of think about, I'm going to do it wrong for a second so you can see. If I'm obviously leaning to one side. You can lean, but you really don't want to put your weight on the outer edges of your leg, on either leg. You really want to keep it towards the inside of your leg or down the center of your leg. And hopefully you will never find yourself in a position, yeah, knees up is fine. Okay, that's great. Oh, I'm in a classroom that decided I wasn't moving enough, and so the lights just turned off, but that's okay. All right. It's a fun classroom. It's always the fun of technology. But when you end up putting your weight to the outer edges of your either leg, you're more likely to fall. You may think you're sturdy while you're young, but you could still break a hip or twist your knee out of alignment as a young person. But it becomes more important to place your weight carefully as you get older. And of course, we all hoping, hopefully all of us are hoping to get old and keep all of our original parts in as much working order as we can until that point in time. Um, okay, so that's just standing, but you also want to unlock your knees. So if you get stressed out, you might have a tendency to lock your knees. That actually could lead to you fainting and passing out. Right? Nobody wants that. So when you're standing, you want to have a slight bend in your knee. You don't want to be overbent. Anytime you bend your knees for exercise or for any of the exercise positions we're going to do today, you want to still be able to see the tips of your toes while your knees are bent. You don't want to overbend them unless there's a very particular reason for you to be squatting. But generally speaking, you don't want to overbend your knees because, again, we like to keep our knees in working order. And it just reduces the overall tension in the body. The main thing to think about with Tai Chi, which of course you may or may not know anything about, it is a Chinese martial art that has been in existence for hundreds of years. Don't know exactly how long because they were keeping secrets for a while. I've been practicing Tai Chi for 25 years now, so probably longer than many of you have been alive. But the main tenet of Tai Chi is relaxation. So practicing this martial art, yes, it's a martial art, but it is also good for your overall health. So it involves letting go of tension, a condition they call song, right? So when you're song, you're relaxed. And you can actually move farther and move better if you're not holding tension in your muscles and your tendons. Okay, so back to standing. I've got my feet, even though you can't see them, they're about hip distance apart. Generally, for this standing exercise, you want to have what we call the 4 points, your shoulder and your hips. You want to have them in alignment. And just as a benefit, you want to have your feet in approximately the same distance to improve your stability. I've got my knees slightly bent, as I mentioned already, and I've got my pelvis slightly rolled under. So it's as if you're getting ready to sit down on a stool behind you. So sitting down on a stool behind you, it causes you to roll your pelvis under slightly. So that's going to release some of the tension in your lower back, which you may have a lot of if you've been sitting in front of the computer or on the couch for long periods of time. So you want to roll the pelvis slightly, you got your knees slightly bent, and I've got my neck, I'm going to turn sideways, you can see. I want to have my head slightly tilted forward, but I'm putting my fist here so you can see that I've got space in between my chin and my chest. You don't want to collapse your neck. I did it wrong just so you could see. That closes off the back of your neck and your spine. So you want to have it open, but I'm also stretching out the vertebrae near my neck, right? If we are on the computer a lot, that's where we get tension. Also, feel like someone is pulling you up from your head top. So my head top is lifted, my chin is slightly dropped, and my tailbone is slightly tucked. My knees are slightly bent. You may notice when I start doing some arm movements here in a little bit, you don't want to raise your shoulders, because when you raise your shoulders, it raises your blood pressure and your stress level. Your tension in your neck is going to increase, which can lead to headaches. So That's a quick thing you can do if you feel yourself getting stressed up. Drop your arms. Just let them hang there. And that's going to automatically release some of the tension that you're feeling. So your shoulders are dropped. Right now my arms are just sort of hanging limply at my sides. And I'm going to breathe for a minute. If you feel up to it, you can follow along if you have space wherever you are watching this. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is what is called a 5-element Qigong. You can actually do this from a sitting posture. If you are sitting down, I recommend moving towards the front of your chair so that you have more movement for your arms. Okay, so right now we're in like a resting posture. I'm going to bring my hands together in front of me as if I'm holding a plant or a pot with potting soil in it. It is Earth Week, so maybe you're doing some gardening and you can visualize this. My elbows are slightly bent. Again, you may be noticing a theme, right? We want to have no tension in the joints if possible. So my hands aren't up high because that would create tension. They're not dropped all the way low because that would lock my elbows. So you may notice my arms are rounded. And of course, all the other things are still true. I've got my head top lifted, my chin slightly dropped, tailbone rolled under, knees slightly bent. Okay, so this is earth posture, and it's good for grounding your energy. So if you feel like you're very anxious, you could just do earth posture. But we're going to go through the rest of the elements. They do different things with your energy. That's actually Qigong. What we're doing right now is energy work. So we're going to move our energy around just by changing our hand position. So I'm going to raise my arms into wood posture. So again, my elbows are bent slightly, and now that you may notice they're also sort of pointing down, so they're not straight out at the sides. It's as if, well, gravity is your friend, right? I know we think gravity is not our friend sometimes, but for relaxing and letting go, gravity is our friend. So I'm letting gravity just sort of pull my elbows down towards the ground. My hands are about at chest distance. I'm just showing you so you can see. But they're out in front of us as if we're hugging a tree, right? Again, Earth Week, that's a nice, warm, fuzzy thought to be thinking about hugging a tree. And again, I'm going to breathe. You may have noticed while I was breathing, I'm still breathing, but you may have noticed that my arms are moving in time to my breath because I do not have any arm tension. Yes, I'm holding a position, but it's not tense. I'm relaxed right now. So again, this is wood. This is the element of wood. So we're going to go from wood to water. So I just rolled my hands over. And again, my elbows are pointed downward. I'm breathing. You can close your eyes if you want while you're doing these exercises. I know that makes it difficult because you're trying to watch me, but after you learn them, you can close your eyes. My hands are pointed downward, my fingers are pointed downward, but I'm not doing it with tension. So again, my elbows are bent and dropped. My hands are sort of loosely hanging in front of me. I'm breathing. Again, this is water. This is the element of water. So we're going to transition from the element of water to the element of fire. I'm going to take my hands, relocate them to a position. I'm just going to demonstrate. I'm making like a triangle with my hands, and it's approximately above my forehead. Even though I raised my arms, I did not raise my shoulders. This would be wrong. Keep your shoulders dropped even though you've raised your hands higher. Again, my elbows are still downward. All right, again, breathing. Fire posture, if you have low energy, like you just wake up and you just don't want to, right? You haven't had your coffee, or maybe you don't have any coffee. You can do fire posture to get your energy moving upwards. But if you are a person who is very already stressed out, you don't want to do fire posture for too long. Okay, so I'm going to move us out of fire posture. I'm taking my hands downward. I cross the center line. This is like the center line. I'm going to go slightly below that. And my hands are pushing slightly forward. I'm going to turn to the side so maybe you can see my hands are in front of my body. You don't actually have to move your hands. I'm doing that to demonstrate where they are. But there's a little bit of forward pressure with the heel of my palm. So if you're familiar with the character Wolverine, that's who I like to think of when I do this posture. This is metal, right? This is the element of metal. So I've got some forward pressure with my hands, and it should feel hopefully not too difficult, this posture, but it may feel good when we stop, right? If you're not used to standing for a long period of time, you may be feeling tension or an unusual pressure in your legs because we're not used to just standing still. So right now I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure in my hands. I'm going to bring it back to like a neutral posture. My hands are currently facing towards my thighs. I'm going to just move them to demonstrate where they are. They're facing towards my thighs. I still have some space in between my shoulders and my body, right? My arms are not, they're not closed. They're just sort of loosely hanging at the sides of my body. Okay, and now I'm going to just, you may have wondered what I just did. I just moved my energy back towards the center. We call this area inside your body, a couple of inches inside from your, in your stomach area. We call it the dantian. It's also, we think of it as our battery source. So anytime we do some of these energy gathering activities, we just sort of bring it back, lock it in, right? We don't want all that energy to just go straight away back into the earth. We want to keep some of it for ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to run through those postures again because I think that it's almost impossible to learn them if you've just seen them one time. So, all right. Again, remember we want our feet at approximately hip and shoulder distance apart, relaxed, knees slightly bent, tailbone slightly tucked, head top lifted, chin slightly dropped, opening the back of the neck, releasing the curve at the back of the spine, arms hanging loosely. We're going to move from this resting posture into earth. So I'm holding rounded, I'm holding a pot of potting soil, visualizing it, and breathing. From earth, we're going to go into wood posture. So I just raise my hands up as if I'm hugging a tree. Again, my elbows are dropped. My arms are bent, but not over bent. They're not over straightened. And again, my shoulders are dropped. So I haven't let my shoulders creep up while I'm moving my arms. This is wood element. Roll the hands over. I'm settling a little bit. Obviously, because I'm talking, that's getting my energy up a little bit. And for relaxation, you want to focus on your breathing. So this is water. You can sort of visualize the energy moving through your arms and over the tips of your fingertips, but it's not leaving you. It makes a return circuit back your arms into your body. So from water, we're going to roll the hands over. And this is fire. Again, I didn't raise my shoulders even though I raised my arms. Got a triangle. Again, even though it's about, forehead height, you don't want to be looking through the triangle. Right now I'm looking through the triangle just so you can see my eyes, but generally you want to be looking down towards the ground even though you have this triangle above your head. So this is fire. Now I'm moving my hands outward and then crossing the midpoint, and I'm pushing forward ever so slightly as if I'm Wolverine. This is metal, right? This is the element of metal. Again, breathe. And I'm going to release that. Let my hands go back into a relaxed position. Then I'm going to go ahead and bring that energy in. Okay. You probably can't see what I'm doing now, but I am shaking out my legs because anytime you've been standing still for that period of time, if you're not used to, even if you are used to standing still for long periods of time, you kind of want to shake things out. So we used to jokingly do the hokey pokey after we would do a lot of standing qigong exercises in classes. If you don't know what the hokey pokey is, look it up. I'm sure there's probably some crazy YouTube videos somewhere. There's YouTube videos about everything at this point. In fact, there's actually a lot of YouTube videos about Tai Chi and Qigong. But it is hard to do what you're watching on a video if you don't have somebody there to help you to know that you're in alignment or if you're overstressing your joints. So we have a guideline in Tai Chi that if it hurts, stop. I know a lot of, let's say, Western exercise, it's like no pain, no gain. We're like no pain, no pain. So if you're feeling pain at any moment, don't do the exercise, right? Don't be doing things that hurt because you think it's going to be good for you. At this point, just do what you can comfortably do, and then you may find that your flexibility is increasing through time because you're not used to acting this way or doing these activities. So if at any point in time you feel lightheaded, if you're standing up, sit down. If you're doing a higher posture and you need to go back to a lower posture, you can always go back to a grounding posture with earth or, wood, or even just a resting posture. Okay, so remember, no pain, no pain. Right? These aren't supposed to be hurting you. They're supposed to be releasing tension and, improving your overall quality of life. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is an exercise called constant bear. Why is it called constant bear? Why not? We don't really know. I'm sure that somebody knows why it's called this, but I just learned it as constant bear. It involves that standing posture that I've already explained a couple of times. My feet are at hip distance apart. What I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be shifting my weight and turning from the waist, and then back to the front, and then back to the side. So again, you don't want to be putting your weight far on the outer edges of your legs. You want to try to keep your weight down the inside of your leg. So right now I'm going to be turning to my right. If you're following along, you may want to do the left. I'm bending my, is the video gone? Can you all not see me anymore? All right, let me see. Okay, all right, I was afraid that everybody lost the video. Okay, all right, so I'm still there. Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna be turning to my right, and as I do that, I'm shifting my weight to the right. I'm bending my knee slightly because I'm turning. And what is happening here is we call this area the quad. I don't know if you can see, I'm pointing to the place where my thighs meet my torso. So it's where your legs meet your torso. We call this the quad. It's also the inguinal notch, so or inguinal fold if you're, into physical therapy or, you've had that sort of training. Anyway, what this exercise is going to do is pump your lymph system. Now, your lymph system helps you when you're trying to process diseases or illnesses or just to keep you healthy. But unlike your blood circulation, which has your heart to pump it through the body, your lymphatic system does not have its own separate pump. What it has are your joints. So there's lymph nodes under your shoulder, in the back of your knees, in the thigh area, right? All of your joints have your lymph nodes, and you pump your lymph system by movement. So this is why it's important to keep moving. Even if you have some sort of a limitation on how much you can move, keep moving the other joints that you have. But right now, if you are standing, you're going to just pay attention that when you shift your weight to one side, you don't want to overbend your knee. Again, you should still be able to see your toes over the top of your foot. Well, that's where your toes are. You want to be able to see your toes past your knee. That makes more sense. All right, so I'm shifting my weight to the right. Now you sort of spring up a little bit. My weight is centered. Now I'm going to shift my weight to the left. You don't want to collapse your knee when you turn. So I'm going to do it wrong, which you may or may not be able to see. You want to keep some sort of alignment in your knee. You don't want to overbend your knee because, again, we want to keep our knees working until we're old. Okay? So right now we're just going to shift our weight gently as we're turning our waist. You'll notice I picked up some speed. Our hands are hanging limply, but you may notice that my arms are moving, and that's because I'm relaxed. And when I turn my torso, my arms follow along. So again, this is when you might wish that you're not standing so close to a wall. So if you're standing close to something that's going to hurt when you smack your arm on it, you may want to adjust your positioning. So this exercise is called constant bear. Again, I'm turning my waist, shifting my weight from side to side. My arms are still dropped. They are moving, but it's not because I'm consciously moving my arms. My arms are moving in response to the turning of my waist. If you do this faster, your arms will go out farther. And if you're familiar with Kermit the Frog, even though this is constant bear, I like to visualize Kermit the Frog when I'm doing this exercise because he doesn't have any muscles in his arms at all. So when he turns, they just fly. And if you move fast, your arms can swing out like a whip. So yes, Tai Chi is a martial art, so all of these moves can be both defensive and offensive. So if someone is going to go grab you, you can use your arm as a whip. Hopefully nothing like that will happen to you, but these are strange times we live in. So I'm now going to show you the opening sequence of moves that start almost all of the Tai Chi forms. It's called the opening sequence. So again, from that lovely standing posture that you are now very familiar with, gonna tuck my tailbone a little bit more as if I'm actually gonna sit down on that imaginary stool behind me. And as I do so, it's gonna cause my arms to rise up in front of me, almost like a zombie. Okay, so I'm gonna switch my weight. I'm shifting my weight. Right now it's in the center of my feet. I'm going to shift my weight to the balls of my feet. Again, if you're following along with this exercise, you don't want to shift your weight so far forward that you fall, right? You want to stay in control. All right, so I've got my weight shifted to the balls of my feet. and my arms are reaching out, but they're not overextended. Again, I still have a gentle bend in my elbows. My wrists aren't floppy, but they're not hyperextended. So my fingers are relaxed. When I go ahead and shift my weight back to my heels, again, not so far that I fall. And as I do that, I bring my hands towards me. And now I'm going to push down as I straighten up. Okay, so let's do that again. From a relaxed posture, go ahead and sit down as if you're sitting in a stool. Raises up your hands, shift your weight to the balls of your feet, reach out, grab, but gently. I've shifted my weight back to my heels. I bring my hands towards my chest, and then I'm going to push down, and then I'm going to center my weight as I push down. Okay, so that's the opening sequence of Tai Chi moves, whichever format of Tai Chi you might be practicing, either Yang style, which is the most probably famous, and then Chen style, which is probably the original form of Tai Chi from which all the other ones came. There's several other types of Tai Chi that have since evolved, but they all pretty much start the same way. And those postures, while relaxing and peaceful, which is the main purpose of this particular session, again, it's a martial art. So if someone were coming to like strike at you, you can use your hands as a block, right? You can block, maybe you don't need to use both hands, you can just block, right? You may have noticed that I sunk down a little bit as I did that. Why? Because you don't want to just block with your arm, because that's going to hurt your arm. You get much more power if you use your torso and your legs. So again, this way it's peaceful and relaxing, but it is from a martial art. So it could be a block, it could be a shove, it could be a grab, and then as I pull someone down, I could throw them to the ground. We're not going to do that today. All right, so that's the opening sequence of the Tai Chi. All of the Tai Chi forms, just one more time, just so you get it. Up, out, back, down. Okay. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. Some other things that you can do for relaxing. We already talked a little bit about breathing, but I didn't really explain how to try to breathe with the lower part of your lungs. Again, let's go back to breathing now because you might be exhausted just from following along. If you get stressed out, you tend to breathe more with the upper chest. But we want to see if you can, for relaxed breathing, if you can make the lower hand move more when you inhale, as if you're inflating a balloon. So instead of blowing up to an inflated balloon, we're going to visualize that the balloon is inside us. So one way to sort of trick yourself into doing this is when you're just breathing normally, when you're about to exhale, push on your lower hand. And then when you release the hand, your stomach is going to just sort of inflate naturally. So let's just go ahead and breathe and then okay. So hopefully that little trick worked and you're able to breathe and get your lower hand to move more. So I was trying to read the chat and apparently I can't read the chat. So All right, I know we still have a little bit more time. I was going to talk about some other simple techniques you can do to try to reduce your stress. You probably can't hear it. Maybe you can. I don't have it up very loud, but I'm actually listening to some relaxing music right now. And that's one way to change your mood. You probably are already doing that. You listen to music, at least I know almost all the students I've seen in class have their ear pods in when they come to class. Right? So I know you're listening to music, but be mindful of what you're listening to and how it's making you feel. Right. So if you are noticing that you're stressed out, take some time or change the music that you're listening to. If you're not listening to music and you're able to listen to music, listen to some music that's not particularly fast, right? You want a slower beat so that it will lower your blood pressure, calm your breathing. It's also important to do this not just when you're stressed out, but also when you get ready to go to sleep at night. I know you're probably not getting enough sleep at night. Why do I know that? I know I don't get enough sleep at night. If you have pets or children or homework or jobs or stress from school, you're probably not getting as much sleep as you should be. So if you have the ability to start tracking your sleep, you want to think about tracking your sleep. And if you don't want to track your sleep, just make a conscious effort to go to bed or try to go to bed maybe a half an hour earlier than you have been to give your body time to relax before trying to fall asleep. Another thing to help that, again, is music. You could listen to music before you need to fall asleep. And you probably don't want to be looking at your smartphones or your tablets right before you go to sleep for a couple of reasons. The blue light from our phones and our tablets, it sends signals to our brain that it's time for us to wake up. So if you're trying to go to sleep and you're sending signals to your brain that it's time to wake up, as soon as you put your phone down or your tablet down, you're awake. Right? And then you spend like the next hour lying in bed and then you think, well, if I'm not going to be sleeping anyway, I might as well respond to that email or watch that video. Well, as soon as you do that, you've increased your stress level for a couple of reasons, right? Because whatever you're reading or watching is probably not tips on how to relax yourself, so you're probably stressing yourself out from watching the video or reading your email. So you want to avoid the blue light right before you're trying to go to bed, and you also want to avoid doing things purposely that would cause stress. So, okay. I know, it's hard to do that, right? Because we want to know what's going on. We feel if you're anything like me, sometimes at night you feel like it's the only time you get to spend time for yourself. But guess what? Your mental health, your physical health is important, and you need to be able to be healthy before you give all your energy to the other people and things in your life, right? When you're flying on an airplane, if you've had a chance to fly on a plane, they tell you to put your mask on first in the event of loss of oxygen, right? That goes along with our breathing, right? You need to remember to breathe. But if you're caring for other people or you're responsible for other people, you need to take care of yourself first so that you are able to give more of yourself to other people and those around you. So your mental health is important, your physical health is important, and your mental health is actually part of your overall health, right? We tend to treat it differently, but it really is. If your mental health is not great, you start getting all of those physical symptoms. You start getting headaches, you might be sick to your stomach, you might not be able to eat, right? If our mental health isn't where it needs to be, it affects our physical health. So you need to take care of yourself so that you're able to care for other people around you and fulfill all the other responsibilities that you have. So try to get more sleep, relax, breathe, and then of course, just for overall longevity, you don't want to overtax your joints, right? They need to stay with us. And when our joints are loose, we can actually move better overall, right? So that's probably, I'd say, the main difference between Western ideas of strength and health versus Eastern ideas of strength and health, right? Western is like all, ooh, you know, you see people in the gym and they're like, how much can you lift? And Eastern is more like, how relaxed are you? Right? When you're relaxed, everything is easier to deal with. Okay, something else that is probably important that seems obvious, and you may wonder how it has to do with Tai Chi, but I'm just going to throw it in there too. You need to stay hydrated. Right? If you're dehydrated, you lose some of that elasticity and flexibility in your overall system. You tend to get more stressed out just from everything, just because your system is out of balance, and that's actually the Tai Chi symbol has to do with balance. I have one on my shirt. The main motto is balance. What you may not understand, the white portion represents yang energy, or what we would tend to think of as either strength, outward strength, and the dark section has to do with yin energy, or internal strength. Sometimes they're interpreted as masculine and feminine, but as you may or may not be able to see from the symbol, inside the white portion, there's actually a black dot. And inside the black portion, there's a white dot. Because it's never all one way or all the other way. They're both there at the same time in balance. So we want to try to keep balance. So I know it's hard to do. When you're go, 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 you want to try to keep balance in your life. So that's really, it's about, Tai Chi is about balance, and it's about relaxation. Okay. I know originally, I know I'm supposed to talk more, but I kind of feel like there's probably questions already. I can talk some more in a minute, but I thought I'd see if anybody had any questions. Oh, I'm looking at the screen, so I'm trying to look at the camera. No questions? Oh. Okay, well, generally we just recommend trying to do something for maybe 10 minutes a day, every day. But if you don't have 10 minutes, take 2, right? You can actually do most of those Qigong postures, you can actually run through them pretty quickly. You can do earth, wood, water, fire, metal, and then back to a grounding posture. You can actually go through the whole form in less than 2 minutes. But if you have 10, take 10. And if you only know the opening posture of Tai Chi, because that's all I taught you today, you could just do that. Because it actually incorporates all of the principles of movement. We've got our balance, our posture, our flexibility, our opening and closing of joints, and releasing tension in our spine, pumping the lymphatic system. So even if you don't ever learn any more Tai Chi, you just do what you know for a few minutes. So, yeah, so generally, my Tai Chi instructor said, you have 10 minutes, take it, do it, whatever it is you need to do for yourself, take 10 minutes a day. How many, I know, I want to ask questions, but I'm guessing the answer is all of you. If you've ever experienced back pain, I'm going to do something that's going to look a little weird. Actually, probably everything I've done so far looks a little weird, so what else is new? But if you have any sort of back pain, I'm just going to show you something you can do to try to release some of the back pain in your life. Now, again, if you already have a severe back injury, be careful, because no pain, no pain. I don't want you to do something right now that's supposed to help you and it makes you hurt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hands forward. I'm going to bend at the waist. So depending on what you see, I'm not sure how much of this you're going to actually see, but I'm going to bend down. Okay, so slowly, like one vertebrae at a time. When you get to the bottom, you want to go ahead and release your head. That's going to release the vertebrae in the back of your neck. Okay, now I'm going to come back up one vertebrae at a time. And at the end, go ahead and raise your head back up. Okay. You can actually do that particular posture sitting. I know it's not going to be it's not going to be the same. But if you can't do it from standing, you can actually do that from sitting. So how you would do that, I guess I could just grab my chair, but, go down safely and then come back up. You should be able to do that from sitting. And actually, all of the 5-element Qigong, you can do them from sitting, as long as you're sitting at the front of your chair and have room to move your arms. Are there... Oh. I was trying to read the chat. Okay. Hopefully, if there's any other questions that I've missed from the chat, someone will tell me.
No, at this
So
time I
that
don't
particular exercise was taught to us by a Tai Chi instructor who also used to be a chiropractor. So he stopped being a chiropractor because he realized that there was something he could teach people that would make it so that they didn't need to go see him anymore. So there's a more complicated version of the spinal stretch, but that one's the easy one and will help you relieve some of your tension and hopefully back pain for now and years to come. So, thank you very much. I'll just see if there's any further questions.
Hi, Miss Newman. I don't see any
further. Review any of that. I cannot hear you.
Oh no, you can hear me. There's no further questions. We just wanted to thank you for being with us today. Let me let her know in the chat. No questions. Thank you for being with us today. Hopefully other people can hear me.
You're welcome.
So we would like to invite you to next week's session for Tahana Virtual Events. At 11 a.m., we're going to have Happy Math Hour.
I know. I got all quiet because I couldn't hear you, but you can hear me. Well, thank you for your participation, and hopefully some of the things I said and some of the movements will be beneficial to you in the future. And stay calm, right? Most of our problems and life situations are in fact temporary. So if we can stay calm, we can usually figure out a way to handle whatever's going on.
Thank you, Miss Newman. So next week at 11 a.m. we
You're
will have
welcome.
the final TVEs of the season.
And I know that there was
Um,
a sign-in QR code in the chat earlier, so hopefully you all got credit for attending.
we'll have the final TVs of the season at 11 a.m. We'll have the final
You're
exam
welcome.
reviews for Math 1314 and Math 1324. And then at 1
There
o'clock,
it is. I had drawn a yin-yang symbol on the board, and I wanted to see if I could move the camera. There it is.
she can't hear me.
Fortunately, I had one on my shirt, too.
At 1 o'clock, we'll be going over the children's program at Northwest. Thank you all for coming today, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.